the implementation of the Income Tax Act 2025, which has come into effect from 1st April 2026. We extend our warm welcome to the esteemed taxpayers, valued stakeholders, and distinguished guests. Hearty welcome to one and all present here. As part of this significant reform, the Office of the Principal CCIT Tamil Nadu Puducherry has organized this mega outreach event to create awareness and facilitate a smooth understanding of the new provisions, procedures, and compliance framework. Let's commence today's program with Tamil Thai Valthu. We now request everyone to kindly rise.
நீராரும் கடலுடுத்த நிலமடந்த கெழிலொழுகும் சீராரும் வதனமென திகழ்வரத கண்டமிதில் தெக்கணமும் அதில் சிறந்த திராவிடனல் திருநாடும் தக்க சிறு பிறை நுதலும் தரித்தனரும் திலகமுமே அத்திலக வாசனை போல் அனைத்துலகும் இன்பமுற எத்திசையும் புகழ் மணக்க இருந்த பெரும் தமிழனங்கே தமிழனங்கே உன் சீரிளமை திறம்பியந்து செயல் மறந்து வாழ்த்துதுமே வாழ்த்துதுமே வாழ்த்துதுமே.
Thank you. The lighting of the lamp resonates with our collective commitment to spreading awareness and promoting informed compliance through this outreach initiative. To give an auspicious start to today's event, we are now proceeding to the lighting of lamp. For that, may I now request our chief guest, Principal Chief Commissioner of Income Tax, Shri Sunil Bajpai IRS, along with DGIT Investigation, Shri Arun C. Bharat IRS, Chief Commissioners, Srimati S. Padmaja IRS, Srimati V.S. Srilekha IRS, Dr. Shakir Hussain IRS to kindly light the lamp. Sirs and madams, please. As a token of respect and regard, we would like to welcome our esteemed dignitaries with saplings. For that, may I request CCIT 3 CHENNAI, Srimati S. Padmaja IRS, to kindly welcome our Principal CCIT, Shri Sunil Bajpai IRS, with a sapling. Madam, please. Thank you, sir and madam. May I now request CCIT TDS, Dr. Shakir Hussain IRS, to kindly welcome DGIT Investigation, Shri Arun C. Bharat IRS, with a sapling. Sir, please. As we gather here today, it is important to reflect on the significance of the Income Tax Act 2025, which has come into force from 1st April 2026. The Act marks a major step towards simplifying, consolidating, and modernizing our tax system, addressing complexities that had built up over time. It introduces key reforms such as a single tax year, replacing the earlier dual system, along with clearer language, improved structure, and streamlined provisions, making the law more accessible and easier to understand, while preserving continuity. Today's outreach program, PRARAMBH 2026 CHENNAI, is an important initiative to spread awareness and facilitate a smooth transition to the simplified and taxpayer-friendly framework. On that note, it is my honor to briefly introduce our Director General of Income Tax Investigation, Shri Arun C. Bharat IRS. Sir is a 1991 batch officer of Indian Revenue Service. Sir holds a bachelor's degree in engineering from College of Engineering, Guindy, and an LLB degree from Bharathidasan University, Trichy. Over his distinguished career, spanning more than 3 decades, Sir has served in several key verticals of the department across the country, including assessment and investigation, gaining extensive experience in tax administration and enforcement. Prior to assuming charge as Director General of Income Tax Investigation, Sir served as the Chief Commissioner of Income Tax, Coimbatore. With his rich experience and leadership, we are indeed privileged to have him with us today. May I now request Director General of Income Tax Investigation, Shri Arun C. Bharat IRS, to welcome the esteemed gathering. Sir, please.
Respected Principal Chief Commissioner of Income Tax, Tamil Nadu and Puducherry, Shri Sunil Bajpai, my dear colleagues, eminent taxpayers, tax practitioners, office bearers of ICAI, and distinguished representatives from different associations of various profession, trade, commerce, and industry. I extend my heartfelt welcome to all of you to this PRARAMBH 2026 CHENNAI to discuss the new Income Tax Act 2025 with all the stakeholders. As you are aware, we are in a transitional phase moving from the old Income Tax Act 1961 to the new Income Tax Act 2025, which has come into effect from 1st April 2026. The new IT Act focuses on simplifying tax laws, reducing litigation, and encouraging voluntary compliance through a trust-based tax administration. It is an outcome of a thoughtful and meticulous exercise aimed at restructuring tax legislation in a manner that is both accessible and intelligible to all its stakeholders. The previous IT Act 1961 was overloaded with several amendments and insertions resulting in complexity, ambiguity, and a lot of litigations. The new Act has brought out lucidity, coherence, and structural redesign. One of the most commendable features of this legislation is its emphasis on simplification without dilution. The provisions that were spread across multiple sections, accompanied by numerous provisions and explanations, have now been thoughtfully consolidated. For instance, matters pertaining to income under the head salaries, including exemptions and deductions, relating to gratuity, leave encashment, commutation of pension, and various forms of compensation have been harmoniously brought together within a unified framework. This not only enhances ease of understanding for taxpayers, but also facilitates consistency in interpretation and enforcement. A defining feature under the new Act is clear demarcation between substantive law and procedural detail. This Act now confines to core legal principles and substantive provisions, while procedural and operational aspects have been relocated to IT rules. This structural refinement ensures that the Act remains concise and focused, while allowing procedural matters to be addressed with greater flexibility and responsiveness. The number of chapters and sections is reduced, and the overall word count of the legislation has been brought down significantly. Equally noteworthy is the rationalization and reorganization of section numbering. The old Act had alphanumeric sequencing, which was cumbersome for both tax practitioners and administrators. It is pertinent to note that while the language and structure have been refined, the substantive rights and obligations of taxpayers remain steadfastly preserved. This new Act incorporates well-considered transitional provisions to ensure continuity, thereby safeguarding the legitimate expectations of taxpayers and upholding legal certainty during the shift to the new regime. The legislation also reflects a conscious effort to align with global best practices, drawing inspiration from different tax jurisdictions that have successfully modernized their tax codes. This new Act embraces clarity of expression and simplicity of design while remaining firmly rooted in the unique socio-economic fabric of our Indian nation. Distinguished participants, this outreach program is to facilitate successful implementation of the new IT Act 2025. I hope this forum will provide meaningful dialogue, constructive engagement, and free exchange of ideas. I would therefore urge all the invitees to participate with enthusiasm and curiosity. We look forward to your insights, feedback, and suggestions. In today's program, we will have presentations on the highlights of IT Act 2025, demonstration of Kar Setu and Kar Saathi chatbot, and visit to Kar Saathi kiosk. In conclusion, I once again extend my heartfelt welcome to you, all of you. I'm sure today's deliberations will be enriching, enlightening, and productive, paving the way for a smooth and effective implementation of the Income Tax Act 2025. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. We now have the honor of listening to the keynote address by a respected Principal Chief Commissioner of Income Tax, Tamil Nadu, Puducherry. Before we invite sir to address the gathering, I deem it a true privilege to introduce our Principal Chief Commissioner, Shri Sunil Bajpai IRS, who recently assumed charge as the Principal CC, Tamil Nadu, Puducherry on 10th April 2026. An officer of the 1990 batch of the Indian Revenue Service, sir has an exceptional academic background. Sir holds a B.Tech in Civil Engineering from IIT Kanpur and an M.Tech in Structural Engineering from IIT Delhi. Sir has further enriched his academic profile with a PG.DM from IIM Lucknow and also holds a Bachelor of Law degree. With more than 3 decades of distinguished and dedicated public service, sir has held several key positions in the Income Tax Department, including the Directorate of Systems and at NADT Regional Campus, Lucknow. Sir has also served on deputation as Joint Assessor and Collector at the Municipal Corporation of Delhi and as Director at the National Security Council Secretariat, Government of India. Prior to his current role, sir served as Chief Commissioner of Income Tax in Mumbai. With his vast experience and exemplary service, we are honored to have him with us today. On that note, may I now request our Principal CCIT Tamil Nadu Puducherry, Shri Sunil Bajpai IRS, to kindly address the gathering. Please, sir.
Dear colleague on the dais, Shri Bharat, esteemed representatives of industry and commerce, respected members of the tax fraternity, learned professionals, and dear officers. அனைவருக்கும் வணக்கம். Today we deliberate upon the Income Tax Act 2025, a landmark reform that reflects the aspirations of a confident, forward-looking, and rapidly evolving India. To truly appreciate the magnitude, intent of this reform, it is essential to briefly revisit the historical canvas upon which it is drawn. For more than 6 decades, the Income Tax Act 1961 has served as the cornerstone of our direct tax system. It has guided generations of taxpayers, administrators, and policymakers. It has evolved through numerous amendments, adapting itself to changing economic realities, global developments, and domestic priorities. While it has evolved over time through numerous amendments, it has also become increasingly complex, both in structure and language. Layers of provisions, provisos, explanations, and cross-references have accumulated, making comprehension a challenge and increasing litigation. The Income Tax Act 2025 is the culmination of a transformational exercise which seeks to address these challenges by structural reform. At its core, this reform is guided by a simple yet powerful philosophy. A tax system must not only be fair and efficient, it must also be intelligible and accessible. Thus, the Income Tax Act 25 is not an exercise in altering the foundational principles of taxation. It is instead an exercise in refinement, rationalization, and renewal. The new act does not seek to alter tax rates or introduce any sweeping policy deviations, thereby ensuring policy stability and continuity. Where the new act truly distinguishes itself is in the structure and presentation. The Income Tax Act 2025 has been meticulously reorganized to ensure a logical and intuitive flow. Provisions have been grouped thematically. Redundant and obsolete sections have been removed. The language has been simplified, substituting archaic expressions and phrasing to bring clarity and precision. In place of multiple sections and subsections, the Act employs tables, structured formats, and simplified expressions, making it far more navigable and user-friendly. One of the most significant challenges in any taxation system is the prevalence of disputes and litigation. Ambiguity in language often gives rise to divergent interpretations. Divergent interpretations, in turn, lead to disputes, and disputes inevitably culminate in litigation, consuming time, resources, and energy for both taxpayers and administration. By simplifying language and eliminating ambiguities, the Income Tax Act 2025 seeks to address this issue at its root, thereby ushering in an era of reduced litigation, faster resolution, and enhanced trust. One of the most notable changes is the introduction of the concept of a tax year. This replaces the earlier terms previous year and assessment year, which often caused confusion among taxpayers. With this single intuitive term, tax compliance is made easier and flawless. Moreover, the new law is designed to seamlessly integrate with the government's broader push towards digital governance and technology-driven compliance systems. Towards this direction, the income tax forms have been redesigned so as to enable online filing in a simple and accessible manner. Ladies and gentlemen, at the heart of this reform lies the taxpayer. Whether it is a salaried individual striving to meet compliance requirements, a small entrepreneur navigating regulatory obligations, or a large corporation managing complex financial structures, the objective is the same: to make compliance simple, seamless, and stress-free. The new act reduces the cognitive burden on taxpayers. It minimizes the need for constant cross-referencing. It provides clarity at every step. In doing so, it transforms compliance from a cumbersome obligation into a manageable, straightforward process. The Income Tax Act 2025 has come into effect from 1st April 2026. To ensure that every taxpayer, every professional, and every institution is well prepared, we are committed to extensive outreach, capacity building, and stakeholder engagement. Today's event is part of that larger effort. It is an opportunity to listen, to clarify, and to collaborate. In this context, I am pleased to inform this distinguished gathering that a comprehensive series of outreach programs is being meticulously planned across Tamil Nadu and Puducherry. These initiatives will encompass stakeholder consultations, interactive seminars, and capacity building sessions tailored to diverse segments of taxpayers, including small and medium enterprises, salaried individuals, startups, and tax professionals. The objective is to ensure that every stakeholder, from metropolitan centers to smaller towns, is fully equipped to understand and smoothly transition into the new tax legislation. We envision these outreach efforts not merely as an informational exercises, but as platforms for dialogue, feedback, and collaborative learning. I urge all stakeholders, tax professionals, industry leaders, and citizens to actively engage with this new framework. Your feedback, your understanding, and your participation are crucial to making this reform a success. In the conclusion, the Income Tax Act 2025 represents a significant milestone in India's journey towards ease of doing business and ease of compliance. It reflects our commitment to a tax system that is simple, transparent, modern, and fair. Let us work together to ensure that this transformation benefits every taxpayer and strengthens the foundation of our economy. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. We shall now move on to the presentation scheduled for the day. The session will commence with a presentation on the highlights of Income Tax Act 2025, followed by a demonstration of the various digital facilitation tools, including website navigation, Karsetu FAQs, and Karsati chatbot. We will also have a presentation on the outreach schedule formulated for the Tamil Nadu and Puducherry region to promote wider awareness and effective implementation of the Act. Before we begin the presentation session, may I respectfully request our Principal CCIT, Shri Sunil Bajpai IRS and DGIT, Shri Arun C. Bharat IRS, to kindly occupy front row seats reserved for them. Sirs, please. To commence the first session, may I now request Sri Kirti Narayan IRS, Joint Commissioner of Income Tax, to kindly take us through the topic. Sir, please.
Good morning to one and all present here. I consider it a privilege to stand before this august gathering today and explain the highlights of Income Tax Act 2025 on behalf of the Principal CC Charge, Tamil Nadu and Puducherry. Over the next 20 to 30 minutes, we are going to see this. Initially, I'll explain the background in which the Income Tax Act 2025 came into picture, the efforts which went behind the making. After that, I'll explain about the need for bringing a new legislation and simplification of the Income Tax Act 1961. After that, we'll go into the details. We'll see what does the simplification actually mean, the nuances behind the simplification exercise. And lastly, we'll see what has not changed, what is going to continue. So the announcement about a new Income Tax Act was made by the Honorable Finance Minister during the Union Budget speech of 2024 in the Lok Sabha. The mandate given to the department is to make the Income Tax Act 1961 concise, in the sense the existing legislation was considered as a large in size. To make it smaller, lucid, one of the common understanding about the Income Tax Act 1961 was that it is complex and difficult to read. So the mandate was to improve the readability and make it simpler so that a common graduate can understand with a plain reading. So the announcement was first made on 23rd July 2024. Between July 24 and February 2025, when the bill was introduced in Lok Sabha, a lot of background work took place. The entire act was divided in parts and various committees were formed under the chairmanship of senior income tax department officers, and they did a comprehensive line by line examination of the existing act and made a draft. So the bill was referred to the Select Committee of Parliament on the same day, 13th February 2025. The Select Committee held 36 sittings between February 2025. It held stakeholder consultations, field visits, and finally it submitted its report to the Lok Sabha on 21st July 2025. The bill was passed in the Parliament and got presidential assent on August 21st, 2025. So what happened between 2024 July and 2025 February? As I said, a comprehensive line by line examination of 500,000 words has taken place. The department has conducted stakeholder consultations and more than 20,000 suggestions have been received from the public. There was an initial draft to establish a structure to the new act. Various internal and external committees have reviewed the work done by the committees and subcommittees which did the initial drafting. Subsequently, this was checked by TPL Division of CBDT and Ministry of Finance. After this, it was subjected to expert review and redrafting. Finally, it was sent to vetting to the Ministry of Law. This is a result in brief. The Income Tax Act 1961, which had 5,12,000 words, has now become Income Tax Act 2025 with 2,60,000 words. 819 sections have now condensed to 536 sections. 47 chapters have now been reduced to 23 chapters. But more than the slide, I think it will be easier to appreciate if you see it physically. So this is Income Tax Act 1961 and this is Income Tax Act 2025. Can you see? Of course, I have brought a pocket-sized version, but even if you consider the taxman's full version and you remove the old section to new sections mapping, you will still find the thickness has come down to almost 50%. So what was the need to conduct this Himalayan exercise of going through a functional act which has served for more than 60 years, but consisted of 5 lakh words, and why conduct this line-by-line examination of this entire act? So though originally the act contained 298 sections, gradually over a period of time, over a period of 6 decades, the number of sections have grown to 819. It consists of 1,200 provisos and 900 explanations. By Finance Acts, 65 times the Income Tax Act 1961 has been amended. Initially, during the earlier years, amendments were less, but during the later years, up to 100 amendments have taken place in a single year. Apart from the annual Finance Acts, there have also been 19 specific taxation law amendment bills. So all this have led to a total 4,000 amendments over this 6 decades. So why so many amendments to the Income Tax Act? Over these 6 decades, so many times the governments, parties which have come to power have changed, and every party which has come to power had its own priorities. So they brought in their priorities as amendments. That is reason number 1. Reason number 2, the Income Tax Act has not only served as a direct tax administration tool, but has also served to promote so many socio-economic priorities of the governments which have remained in power. So if you see, in order to promote domestic savings, there are provisions in Chapter 6A. In order to promote industrial growth in hilly regions, there are provisions in Section 80. There are provisions to boost exports. So all these priorities, all these socio-economic goals have been achieved through amendments of the Income Tax Act. Judicial pronouncements and legal interpretations have been one of the main reasons for the amendments. I still vividly remember how the faculty members of National Academy of Direct Taxes kept impinging upon the importance of GK and drive shafts and how it shaped Section 147 and subsequently 148, 148A, all those. That is another reason. India is also party to various international bodies. So when India agrees to certain treaties, agreements at the international forum, those are to be given effect in the domestic laws. So many transfer pricing provisions, APA provisions, international taxation provisions, amendments in these areas have come because of agreements in international forums. So these are the reasons behind the huge number of amendments which have taken place over the last 6 decades. Another important reason for the need to simplify is that the Income Tax Act 1961 is considered heavy in its language, archaic in its linguistic terms. There are so many nested structures, difficulties of provisos coming under explanations, explanations coming under provisos. We'll see in detail at later parts of the presentation. One of the common practices that income tax officers and tax practitioners would do is that having 2-3 parts of the act simultaneously open, referring to section 68, 69 will prompt you naturally to go to 115B, BB, and if you're doing salary, you have to do from section 17 to section 10. So cross-referencing has become a difficulty for tax practitioners. Many procedural aspects have crept into the Act. So these are the reasons why the structure of the Act has become complex. Another reason is around 300 sections were found to be redundant, no longer required in the existing Act. For example, fringe benefit ceased to apply from assessment year 10-11. We'll see more examples in the course. Did I miss anything? Yeah. So what has changed during the simplification exercise? What was the principle behind the simplification exercise? The idea was to remove all obsolete and redundant provisions, make the Income Tax Act simple in terms of language, form, structure, improve readability and understanding, consolidate provisions which are relevant and related to each other, but presently which are scattered across the Act. So these were the governing principles behind the simplification exercise. There is a short story called What's in a Name by the famous writer Isaac Asimov. In the short story, the protagonist, a detective, solves a murder mystery by identifying a peculiarity in the name of an individual, in the name of a character, which is not very apparent to eye. So Isaac Asimov's theory is that there is more to the eye, more to the name than what is apparent to the eye. In Income Tax Act 2025 also, there is a change in name. The name previous year is now changed to tax year, and the name assessment year has been discontinued with. Now, why this name change? If I literally translate previous year to Tamil, I will say Mundaya Varsham, previous year. So literal translation indicated Mundaya Varsham, whereas the meaning as per the Income Tax Act is a period where the income was earned and subject to assessment to tax. Right? So the linguistic meaning is something different, and the meaning as per the Act is something different. Section 139(1) mentions that a person has to file a return of income disclosing the total income of a previous year. However, the return form displays the assessment year. Correct? Taxpayer generally relates earning of income to a particular financial year. I earned 10 lakh rupees in FY 24-25. That is how a common man thinks, right? But if my case gets selected for scrutiny, the notices that I would receive will contain AY 25-26. So all such confusions go away. It's all the way more difficult for international taxpayers who are not at all aware of these terms, like previous year and assessment year. So all these confusions have been done away with, and there will be a single name called tax year. Tax year is now the unit period of taxation, and it is a 12-month period from April 1st to March 31st. So no confusion between FY, PY, AY henceforth. Everywhere the transactions and income will be referred to with respect to the tax year. I don't know about Isaac Asimov, but had this come in 2015 or 14 when I was in academy, I would have been a much happier officer. We were like, என்னடா இது previous year என்றானுங்க assessment year என்றானுங்க ஒரே கன்ஃபியூஷனாக இருக்குது. Okay, the next interesting simplification. Please allow me to do a small role play for this. Let us assume I have a friend who is a foodie, and he is not into physical exercise and activity, so he has put on a lot of weight, and I want him to encourage to take up exercise. For the time being, let us assume that foodie friend of mine is Dr. Ramji Rao. Now I am going to try and convince my friend in two scenarios. Okay. Scenario 1. Dr. Rao, I know that you are a foodie, and I know that you hate exercises. But if you come along with me and run 3 weeks a day and do exercises like me, irrespective of how many biryanis you built in Nungambakam Manjapar, you will become healthy, your sugar levels will be good, your cholesterol levels will be good. This is scenario 1. Scenario 2. Dr. Rao, notwithstanding what you eat and going to eat from 1/4/2026 to 31st March 2027, you will remain healthy provided A, you do HIIT, B, you do Surya Namaskar. For the purposes of this section, HIIT means blah blah blah. Now, which of these two scenarios is likely to convert Dr. Rao from becoming a non-exercising person to an exercising person?
Obviously, irrespective of is simple, and notwithstanding sounds like not understanding. See, obviously, irrespective of is very simple to understand to anyone, and notwithstanding sounds like not understanding.
Thank you, sir. The point to take home, ladies and gentlemen, is that we should be using terms which are more accessible, terms which are more commonly used by common people, rather than sticking to formal expressions. Even in native English-speaking countries like England, such archaic expressions are avoided in tax legislations. So the shift from notwithstanding to irrespective of symbolizes the shift from to prioritize accessibility over formalism. Let us assume your total income for the year is 1003 rupees. Now, as per rounding of provisions, it has to be considered as 1000 rupees. And if your total income is 1007 rupees, it is going to be 1010 rupees. This is the meaning of rounding of provisions, right? Right now, this is how they exist in section 288A and 288B. The amount of total income computed in accordance with the foregoing provisions of this Act shall be rounded off to the nearest multiple of 10 rupees, and for this purpose, any part of a rupee consisting of paise shall be ignored, and thereafter, if such amount is not a multiple of 10, then if the last figure in that amount is 5 or more, the amount shall be increased to the next higher amount, which is a multiple of 10, and if the last figure is less than 5, the amount shall be reduced to the next lower amount, which is a multiple of 10, and the amounts so rounded off shall be deemed to be the total income of the assessee for the purposes of this Act. Now, this has become this. Half the size of two existing provisions, bullet point clarity. Meaning remains the same. So, this is the effect of simplification of sentences. I have quoted one example, many such instances are there. Another nuance of the simplification exercise is we would commonly come across terms like this subsection is subjected to proviso in subclause 1 of clause B of subsection 1 of section 133. Now, no one reads it like this, right? We commonly read it as section 133 1B1. So, the form has been simplified into how most people commonly use and commonly write. Now, as I mentioned before, there are so many nested structures in the existing Act. Section 10 itself has 90 explanations and 131 provisos. Section 1023C contains 35 provisos. The third proviso of which contains 4 explanations. The second explanation of which contains 8 provisos. So you can understand the kind of layering. By the time you go to a proviso, to an explanation, we would have lost coherence of flow, and it's difficult to understand the entire meaning of what we read in the last half an hour, 1 hour, right? So all these provisos and explanations have been now removed. They are now consolidated in the main provision. Now, what is the purpose of provisos and explanation? The Act is subject to certain conditions. The previous section is subject to certain conditions. So these conditions and exceptions and carve-outs have now been sequenced in the main provision itself. So it's easy to read in a flow. So even courts are guided by what the proviso says and not by where it is placed. The meaning matters rather than the placement. That is the reason behind this simplification. Another important change that has taken place in the Income Tax Act is there are so many calculations which we have to do as a part of various calculations involved in the various provisions. Say for example, if you are going to calculate cost of acquisition, section 49 deals with cost of acquisition of certain modes. Now this is the actual calculation. If you are going to calculate the cost of acquisition of the unit in a segregated portfolio, then A, cost of acquisition of unit in the total portfolio multiplied by B to C ratio, net asset value of asset transferred to the segregated portfolio to NAV of the total portfolio immediately before segregation of portfolios. This is visual, it's easy to understand, it's easy to calculate instead of this. This is verbose, right? So another important change has come in the form of translating the text into formulas wherever computations are involved. Now there were so many sections which had crept into the Act because they were relevant in the context of certain scenarios. Section 294A is one example. It was introduced in the context of union of the French territories to the Indian state. The union territories are now fully integrated and there is no transitional need for this provision. Provisions like this which have outlived their time have now been removed, leading to reduction in bulk of the Income Tax Act. Another example. As I said, scattering of related provisions is one difficulty that tax practitioners often encountered while reading the Income Tax Act 1961. For example, non-profit organizations, provisions related to trusts, etc. are scattered across 5 chapters and 15 sections. Similarly, now all of them have been consolidated at a single place in Part B of Chapter 17 under the title Special Provisions for Registered Non-Profit Organizations. Similarly, provisions relating to AOP, BOI, which were scattered across 67A, 86, 167B, are now consolidated into Chapter 17. Same holds true for salary also. Earlier, you will find 17(1), 2, 3 dealing with salary and Section 10 dealing with gratuity, VRS, leave encashment, etc. They are now consolidated into one chapter. One more important change from the previous act is that various rules which explain the procedure as to how the particular income tax proceeding is to be carried out have now been shifted to rules. So the reasoning behind that is the act should state what are the rights and obligations of the taxpayers, whereas the rules should prescribe how it is to be done. So all this 32 subsections comprising 4,500 words of 144B, faceless assessment example, is now transferred from the Act to rules. However, the substantial portions are retained in the section in Income Tax Act itself. Another example is procedure relating to tax recovery officer. More often, you will find definitions across various parts of the Income Tax Act. In the section itself, at the end, in an explanation, there will be a definition. For the purposes of this section, term X, competent authority or specified person, is explained as like that. So now all such definitions are centralized, and if you are reading section 194A, in so many places you will come across this term or these sentences. Transaction by an account payee check or an account payee draft or use of electronic clearing system. It comes in so many places. So now all of that has been reduced to specified banking or online mode. Definitions have been centralized. There used to be a famous joke among our colleagues that if you correctly tell the number of sections between 194 to 194T, I will get you a T. So there are so many serially numbered sections, and over a period of time, areas like TDS, which were gradually expanded in order to increase the tax base, in order to bring transactions into the tax net, they had increased beyond what was originally intended. Now all this serial numbering of sections has been done away with. Now it's all a linear sequential structure running from section 1 to section 536. So it's easy to refer, it's easy to compare. So this is a net result. Some of the major areas which got substantial reduction are exemption from 30,000 words to 13,500 words. TDS has reduced to 14,606 words, 65 sections to just 13 sections. So whatever was running from 192 to 194T is now part of just two tables. Section 392 contains one table, section 393 contains one table which is divided into three subparts. But essentially, it's very easy to refer TDS sections now compared to earlier. Non-profit organizations have reduced from 12,800 words to 7,600 words now. Similar exercises of rewriting the tax code has been taken up by other countries also. So this is a comparison between Australia, UK and India. Australia rewrote the tax code, which resulted in the new tax code going to 4,318 pages from 2,500 pages. The UK tax law rewrite project increased the length of legislation from 960 to 2,400 and odd pages. The Indian exercise has reduced words, sections, but it has made the language clearer and simpler. Clarity of tax code is important, but it was equally important to guard against an unnecessarily lengthier tax code. That was the principle. So these are all the various different types of simplifications which have been done. And what has not changed? The existing Income Tax Act and the new Income Tax Act mean the same. The legislative intent and the meaning remain the same. There has been no change in tax policy. There has been no change in tax rates. And any kind of proceedings which are currently under Income Tax Act 1961 will continue. Section 536 provides for continuity. Any kind of proceedings which are pending before tribunals, high courts and supreme courts will continue and will be decided as per the existing act, Income Tax Act 1961. In addition to simplification of the act, the forms associated were also subjected to a simplification. Now there are reduced number of forms. They have been made into smart forms with standardized formats. certain forms like form number 145, which was previously 15 CA, international transactions, they have been made electronic, which has made compliance easy and chances of errors are less. In order to prevent frauds, it is now subject to a unique document identification number, which allows the filers of the form to do a real-time verification. Forms which required the deductors to enter a lot of data like TDS forms have now been enabled with auto population of fields. So there is less scope for manual entry, less chances for errors, saves a lot of time. A lot of attempts have been made in the past to simplify the Income Tax Act in the form of recommendations of the Tax Administration's Reforms Committee, Direct Tax Code, etc. Now that landmark time has come and that event has taken place, and the pudding is here, the judgment is pending. We, on behalf of Principal CC Charge of Tamil Nadu and Puducherry, I request all of you to take this information to your associates, to your members, to your clients, family and friends. Ask them to read the new act, introduce them to the new legislation. There are certain, there have been a lot of checks and balances during this Himalayan task. CBDT has tried its best to subject the changes to a lot of review, both internal and external. However, there will be and there can be feedback on many provisions which will require a relook at things. So please encourage your users, members, associates, friends and family to read and use the new act and come up with what is their feedback. It will help us give widespread dissemination to the new legislation. Now, immediately, what is required? Now, financial year 25-26 is over, which means individual taxpayers have to file income tax return in July 2026. Which form will they use? This is the first question that comes to our mind, right? So, return for FY 25-26, AY 26-27 will be done under the Income Tax Act 1961. Currently existing forms, ITR forms. FY 26-27, advance tax payments and TDS returns. Advance tax is due in June and TDS returns are due in July. Which forms will you use? The simple thumb rule is that anything commencing from 1st April 2026, new act, till 31/3/2026, 1961 act. Okay, that is a simpler rule. Now there are certain areas like TDS matters where there may be an overlap. Like you have been paying a contractor since FY 25-26 and you are continuing to pay the contractor in current year also. So you will have to make payment. You would have made payment in March, you would have made payment in April, May, June also. So what to do? TDS operates based on the mechanism of event earlier of credit or payment. So if you had paid in March 2026, as I said, till 31st March 2026, 1961 Act and forms. If you are going to make payment in the current year, then you will use the section 393(1) and you won't use 194(c). So these are very simple examples. I know that you will be having more questions. CBDT has come out with a very highly useful two tools, one in the form of an FAQ and another in the form of chatbot. I now request Deputy Commissioner Rumaiza to explain you about these tools introduced by CBDT. Thank you.
Check. Respected. Yeah. HDMI. Respected Principal Chief Commissioner of Income Tax, Tamil Nadu and Puducherry, DGIT Investigation, Tamil Nadu, all the Chief Commissioners, PCITs, senior officials of the Income Tax Department, members of the Chartered Accountant community, and leaders of trade and industry from all over Tamil Nadu, and my colleagues in the department. A very pleasant afternoon to one and all present here. So, as you have already gotten a preface of the changes that has been brought down in the new Income Tax Act, my role today here is to give a brief awareness of all the informational materials and what are the resources that has been brought forward by the Income Tax Department in order to make a smoother transition from the old Act to the new Act, and of course to spread more awareness about the provisions, what are the benefits, and how it's going to help the taxpayers as well as the chartered accountant community. So with no further ado, my presentation is briefly divided into introducing you to something called the Kar Setu FAQ, as well as the Kar Sati chatbot, as well as a few other informational material. So what is Kar Setu? So as you can see, the name suggests Setu means a bridge, right? So Kar Setu is prepared to guide the taxpayers to help them transition from the old Act to the new Act. So it will help answer the questions that remain with taxpayers. Like, even though we know that there are so many changes that has taken place, a lot of room is there for doubts to arise. Like, what happens during the transition period? So being in an FAQ format, it kind of preempts all the questions that may arise in the minds of taxpayer and what may arise in the minds of chartered accountants and whoever is using tax provisions in their day-to-day lives, and how to go about with it. So the FAQ is divided into multiple chapters, and it covers topics such as tax payments, including TDS and advance tax, what changes, since when do you start quoting the new act. For example, there will be a lot of tax deductors, right? Because most of you are employers. So since when do you start quoting the new act while making a TDS deduction? Then what happens to return filing? Then what are the new forms? What happens to the refunds? What happens to assessment appeals, so on and so forth. So the FAQ itself is divided in a very readable, very easy to use format. How will it help the taxpayers? It will help you choose what is the relevant tax year, what is the appropriate form that you should use. As we had mentioned earlier, many of the forms, the number of the forms have changed, right from how to apply for a PAN to your Form 3CB. All the form numbers have changed. And what are the new forms that are applicable? There will be a kind of like an easy mapping of all of that in the FAQ. So now, how to access the FAQ, right? So you have to go to the Income Tax Department website. I've taken a screenshot of the department website. And then when you scroll down, you see something called an FAQ right there on the bottom right corner. And when you click on that, we go into FAQs. So this is basically a Google Drive file, and you can download it. It's easy to download. It's almost 100 pages. And as you can see, the table of contents are having hyperlinks. So if we click on something, TDS compliance, it jumps directly to the TDS compliance, and all the questions are handled here. So it also addresses a lot of practical scenarios. For example, if a deductor has an ongoing contract with monthly payments, how does the deductor handle the switch from the old act to the new act? And there is also a brief period of time when both the acts will simultaneously apply. So as far as we know, the current income tax website is equipped to handle both at the same time, especially in the ongoing transition year. So I am just showing you, a breather of what goes down in this FAQ. And it is accessible for all, and I hope all of you make use of this Kar Setu FAQ that is available for perusal of everyone, and make sure you disseminate in all your WhatsApp groups and spread it wider. All right. Next, we come to Kar Sati. So we live in the age of AI, right? So, and there is a chatbot for almost every application that you know of and you can think of. And something which is as complex and heavily driven by content, it's only a matter of time that, the department came out with a chatbot of its own. And to be honest, this is the most exciting part for me today also. So let's get into the demo of how the chatbot works. So you have to go into the Income Tax Department website. And as you scroll down, you can see a little robot hiding in the top, in the bottom right corner. So let's click on Kar Sati. So here there are two options that have come up. It says, I have a query and report tax evasion. If you press on report tax evasion, it goes to the previous website. This option was always available in the income tax website. But however, that's not the focus today. So let us see a live demo of what happens when you ask the chatbot some queries. So when you press on I have a query, it says, tell me how can I help you. So for starters, I'm just going to type a question. So I'm going to write like, let's say you are a normal individual taxpayer and you're earning some income and you want to know which form you will be using when you're going to file the return. I am a salaried taxpayer and earn 20 lakhs income annually. Which form should I file for ITR? Let's see. All right, so this is the answer which has been generated. And you can hear that tiny ping from the chatbot. So as one thing you can notice is this chatbot loves tables. And that's good for us because, the act, it gets very easy to understand when it's broken down in tables. So here it says if you're a salaried individual, in all these conditions are satisfied, you can file in ITR 2. Or if it also comes up to, it also tries to bring out the situation where in case if you have capital gains or if you have more than other sources of income, then you should consider other chatbots also. An individual stayed in India for 130 days and had income above, let's say, 50 lakhs. Determine the residential status. Let's see what happens. Because this is a common query which most taxpayers in India or whoever they're working abroad, they have. Again, what you can notice about the chatbot is it doesn't give a definite answer. Because as in income tax, there are no definite answers because it depends on so many conditions. If you are, whether you are a resident or not an ordinary resident, whether you're a deemed resident, or if there is the precondition of having stayed in India beyond 365 days in the preceding 4 years. Now, I would like to take it a notch forward and see what happens when, let's say, when we're dealing with income tax proceedings itself. So I'm going to ask the chatbot, I am a taxpayer in India. Excuse my spelling. I received a tax scrutiny notice. What should I do? Let's see if the chatbot can answer queries related to procedures also. So yeah, if you receive a tax scrutiny notice, it's actually telling us step-by-step instruction as to what to do. You have to, I mean, it may seem basic as far, because all of you are here experts, but as far as a common person is concerned who has not much information about what happens, and these days, due to compliance and all, many of the salaried individuals are also getting compliance notice. So this gives at least a very basic understanding of what to do when you get a scrutiny notice. So this is basically, if any of you have any queries to ask, and if you're new to it, I'll be open to asking just anything. Otherwise, I hope all of you got a sense of what this chatbot proposes. So not just something related to the content of the act, it also addresses procedural things. In fact, as a joke, I asked how to evade taxes. It very politely nudged and said, I can help regularize your tax payments, and definitely does not give out any tips on how to evade tax. So don't worry about that, and don't try it also. Yes. Case laws and circulars. Some of the circulars have already been incorporated. I have had asked queries where they have incorporated the queries, but I believe case laws, again, they are a shaky area because they keep changing, and none of the case laws which may consider landmark at one point may get reversed. So I believe as a chatbot, it doesn't have enough discernment to give an advice to a taxpayer regarding that. So
any set of particular act it is referring, only act it is referring, rules also it is considering, and the FAQ circular notification, so that we can have this particular Sathi is looking about these particular aspect and give me the answer from these angles.
absolutely, absolutely. I'll ensure that the feedback goes into the right forums and ensure that
Because
it is done.
I see some certain FAQs which
Yes.
are issued by the department,
Okay.
but not highlighted by the chat box.
All right, we'll make
So
sure that
those pointers happen. So which
thank
is
you.
clearly in that.
Thank you so much. It's great to know that you've already made use of the chatbot. So please keep using it, and if you have suggestions, please come up with that, and we'll make sure it reaches the right forum. So in fact, as we speak, it is still in kind of like a beta mode, and improvement is consistently happening in that front. So thank you so much for that. Yes, sir. Absolutely. That's also a feedback. We'll take it forward, sir. However, I don't know if it works on Chrome in the mobile yet. That I haven't tried. It works on Chrome. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having tried it out. Now, this is something, even the forms, the procedures, the due dates, all of that is answered. The best part, I believe, is it always gives conditional answers. It also asks follow-up questions. Here you can see, if you want, I can tell you the due date specifically. If you are a salaried person or an audit or a company case. So the more you give data, the more it's likely to cater the answer to your needs. Next, we come to something called Madhukar. So Madhukar, as you may have seen, is a little mascot that the department has come up with. And the main purpose of Madhukar is to create awareness among our audience beyond the general audience, which is school children and maybe not so, maybe whoever is not a taxpayer yet. So this, again, you can find it on the income tax portal. This is in the media gallery. Here it was published in March 2026. This is a downloadable file. So basically, it explains what is new with the Income Tax Act in a very simple manner, and of course, using very colorful comic strips. Next, we come to informational brochures and the Samvad videos. So I believe most of you, as you entered the room, you would have seen a stand with all the forms, right? Now, so what these brochures intend to do is to give you a primer about what are the new forms that have come in replacing the old forms, what are the new numbers, and what has actually changed in those forms, what is the rationalization that has happened within these forms. So one good thing is they're available in 12 different languages, and it has a digital version also. So as you can see, this is a form, this blue colored form. This is a form for PAN application of residence. I'm sorry, there's a brochure which talks about the form for PAN application for residence. So on the front of the brochure, you can see a QR code. If you scan it, you can get the digital version in 12 different languages. So please try it out, and please distribute it widely for, in your offices and everything. And on the back of the form, you can see yet another QR code. So this will take you to a Samvad session. So Samvad session is a series of videos that has been brought by the department, which features senior officials discussing the changes that has been brought in this particular form. So when you go to the QR session of this brochure, it will link you specifically to this video. So this PAN form is, let's take a look at Form 3CD. Right, so Form 3CA, 3CB, and 3CD, these were the audit forms which existed before. They've all been merged into form number 26. So what has changed is also very clearly defined here. So for starters, this form contains drop-downs. And what the department has tried to do is, it is also interlinked with AIS and your ITR information. So one of the key transformational changes is that there will be more of linkage with the ITR also. So that way there will be lesser mismatches. And as you all know, mismatches with the audit report as well as the ITR are one of the reasons for CAS selections, right? So with the new form that has been developed, which is Form 26, all these issues would hopefully be reduced. So I've just put those forms. So please do take a copy of these forms from the stands which are kept outside. Next for form, this is a form for PAN application. This is the orange-colored form, orange-colored brochure which talks about the form yet again. And form number 93 and 94. 93 was for individuals and 94 was for companies. And we also have the TAN application form, which was form number 134 and 135, which was formerly called as Form 49B. I'll just keep the slide on this for a brief seconds, just to show you what are the changes in the old form and the new form. All right, so now we come to the Samvad session. So as I had mentioned earlier, the backside of each of these forms, if you scan the link, you can go to the YouTube video which talks about the changes that has been made in each of the forms. So this is just a primer into that.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Ritu Singh Sharma, Additional Director General, Directorate of Public Relations, Publications and Publicity, CBDT, New Delhi. I warmly welcome you all to this very special edition of Samvad. Today's session holds but key features of the new Act.
So this is the first video. So if you go to YouTube official Income Tax India channel, there is an entire playlist. So when you go there, you can get the playlist of all the changes in forms, and this is the first video that comes up.
So over a period of time, the Income Tax Act really expanded to over a half of dimensional poverty.
Yes,
you would be.
I just wanted to demonstrate that this exists, so we will not be playing much of that video. So with that, we come to the end of my presentation. One thing I wanted to highlight is there is a kiosk which has been set up by today, so that you can make use of that to interact with the Kar Setu chatbot. So I encourage all of you to go and try it out and ask a few questions. So with that, I come to the end of my presentation. And next up, we have DCIT Vinod. He will be talking about the schedule of all the awareness programs that has been organized by the Income Tax Department, Tamil Nadu and Puducherry. Thank you, sir. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, Rumaiza. Respected Principal Chief Commissioner of Income Tax, Tamil Nadu and Puducherry Region, Sunil Bajpai, sir. Director General of Income Tax Investigation, Arun C. Bharat, sir. Senior officers, professionals, taxpayers, and friends, good afternoon to one and all present here. As already stated by our Principal CCIT, sir, in his keynote address, through this mega outreach program, this department is now kickstarting a series of outreach programs across Tamil Nadu and Puducherry region. PCIT charges jurisdictional and CIT TDS charge of Chennai and Coimbatore under Principal CCIT Tamil Nadu and Puducherry region will conduct 16 outreach programs in different venues in this month across the cities of Tamil Nadu, starting 20th May in this month, and it will cover various target audiences like tax professionals, businessmen, deductors, individuals, etc. As we see from the slide, the first program would be by PCIT 1 jurisdictional charge, and it will be on 20th, 26th, and 28th, it will be covering at ICAI Bhavan, it will be covering CAs, IT practitioners, and clients. Total of around 100 participants will be covered. And on 26th, again, 150 participants will be covered in TNEB headquarters office, where individual taxpayers will be given the awareness. Then PCIT 3 charge, which is again jurisdictional charge, it will conduct in 2 venues, one in Anna University, Chennai, where 200 participants of the university will participate. And on 20th, Annamala University, and of that university, 200 participants will participate. Next slide. From PCIT 4 jurisdictional charge, again, events have been planned at 2 venues, one at Ashok Leyland and the other one at Nine Stars Information Technology Private Limited, where the company individuals and the employees of the company will participate. Around 250 to 500 participants expected in both the in each of the events. And then PCIT 8 charge will have at 2 places. One at Tower Club on 26th, where chartered accountants and associations, participants of around 100 are expected. And on 20th, Chartered Accountant Association again, and auditors of around 250 numbers are expected. Then outside Chennai, we have plans by PCIT 1 Madurai, jurisdictional charge at 2 venues. One at Tamil Nadu Chamber of Commerce, where business people and auditors are also, and different other participants also expected, around 250 numbers. And Hotel Famina, the same kind of audience with about 150 numbers are expected. Then in Coimbatore, one at Ooty and one in Coimbatore are being conducted. One at Ooty will be at Young Badgas Association campus, where chartered accountants and taxpayers, various other audiences are also covered. Around 100 to 150 participants are expected. 27th, again at ICAI Bhavan, tax professionals and related entities will participate. Around 200 participants are expected. Now, the most important part is, again, the CIT TDS, because that is the current and very important part now. So, we have 2 sessions by CIT TDS Coimbatore, one at Income Tax Office Auditorium itself on 26th. Top deductors will participate, around 80 numbers. And another one on 25th in Conference Hall, Madurai Income Tax Office. Again, 80 number of participants are expected. Then CIT TDS Chennai will organize at 2 venues. On 20th, it will organize in Podigai Hall, the next hall, where deductors of around 80 numbers are expected. And on 26th, Vaigai Hall, around 75 top deductors are expected. So we expect all of your cooperation in making all these events truly successful and useful for the general public and for all of us, including the professionals and the officers and officials. We thank you for participating in this outreach event also, and we request all of you to spread this message to your friends in groups and encourage all of them to participate in large numbers in the outreach events and make useful. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. With that, we now come to the concluding part of today's program. May I now request Deputy Commissioner of Income Tax, Srimati Sunaina, to please deliver the word of thanks.
Respected Principal Chief Commissioner of Income Tax, Tamil Nadu and Puducherry, and Chief Guest for the day, Shri Sunil Bajpai, respected senior officers of the department, esteemed invitees, and dear colleagues. On behalf of the Office of the Principal Chief Commissioner of Income Tax, Tamil Nadu and Puducherry, it is my proud privilege to propose the vote of thanks for this enlightening and meaningful mega outreach program on the new Income Tax Act, PRARAMBH 2026, CHENNAI. At the outset, I express our deepest gratitude to our esteemed Chief Guest, Shri Sunil Bajpai, Principal Chief Commissioner of Income Tax, Tamil Nadu and Puducherry, for gracing this occasion and delivering an inspiring and insightful keynote address. Sir, your lucid explanation of the vision, objectives, and transformative aspects of the Income Tax Act 2025 has greatly enriched all of us present here today. I extend my sincere thanks to Shri Arun C. Bharat, DGIT Investigation, Chennai, for delivering the welcome address and setting the tone for this important program with his thoughtful remarks. We are honored by the gracious presence of our senior officers, the Chief Commissioners of Income Tax, Principal Commissioners of Income Tax, and Commissioners of Income Tax, whose participation reflects the department's collective commitment towards stakeholder engagement and effective outreach. A very special word of appreciation goes to our distinguished invitees, taxpayers, tax deductors, and members of various associations for taking time to participate actively in today's program. Your presence, interaction, and cooperation are invaluable in strengthening the partnership between the department and stakeholders. I also place on record our appreciation for the officers who delivered the informative and beneficial presentations today. We also acknowledge with appreciation the support extended by Evoke Media for the seamless event management and coordination of today's program. My heartfelt thanks goes to all the officers, officials, and support staff of the Office of the Principal Chief Commissioner of Income Tax, Tamil Nadu and Puducherry, whose tireless efforts behind the scenes ensured the smooth and successful conduct of this event. They are truly the backbone of this program. Before we conclude, I request all our esteemed participants to kindly share your valuable feedback through the feedback form circulated to you. Your suggestions and observations will help us improve our future outreach initiatives. Once again, I thank each one of you for your presence and contribution to the success of this program. Thank you all.
Thank you, Madam. We now request everyone to kindly rise for the national anthem.
जनगणमन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष माहे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे.
This concludes today's program. We thank you all for your gracious presence. All are requested to kindly visit the Karsati kiosk set up adjacent to the auditorium. Participants are also requested to kindly share their feedback by scanning the feedback QR code provided to them. Thank you once again. Wishing you all a productive day ahead. Jai Hind.